and what they did is they came to escape this. This is a sky view of Hurricane Florence. So what happened was my mother came originally just to escape my family. And then my sister ended up knocking on the door on Wednesday, and they were here for the weekend. It was good. But the thing about this, you got storms that brew every other day out in the Atlantic Ocean. And what they do is they start out small, okay? And then what happens is they come and they hit land and they destroy a lot of stuff. And a lot of times the buildings with the weaker foundations are destroyed. And so what we're going to talk about here today is how to strengthen your foundation. So for the next 30 minutes, I want to have your undivided attention because this can save your life. You look at this right here. One of the other things when you talk about storms and these different things that come together, what happens is, why is it tragedy always has to bring people together? You know, I just recently had a family reunion in North Carolina, and I was so adamant about going. I was like, my wife was like, man, you wait till the tickets get so high, so now we got to drive. But I was like, we got to go because I want to see live people. I want to see people that are living. You know, we would have not even asked a question if they were dead. It was just like we would have been there. So one of the things it is that unfortunately we always have to let tragedy bring us together where we have to start doing something about it. And that's kind of what's happening with the allopathic medicine model. The allopathic medicine model right now, what's happening, people start going like this, and when they have a decline in health, they find vitality. Then when they find vitality and where the body's supposed to heal itself, then they start coming back up and they live that. Why not have the foundation so strong that your body doesn't make those divots way down like that? Everybody's going to go up and down with it because we're all going to catch a cold, we're all going to have stuff happen to us. But we got to prepare our bodies for the storms that are going to come. So the question I got is this thing right here, we're talking about blood pressure, but how do we prepare for a storm? It's the same thing that you prepare for the storms that come in life for health. So if we had a massive disaster that was about to happen, what was the first thing that we would do? What's the first thing you would do? Raise your hand. Make sure you got plenty of food. What else? Generator. You will make sure too that the stuff outside of your house is kind of tied down or pushed in the garage. And it's the same thing with your body. You have to prepare your body for the storms of life that's going to come. Because the only way that you can avoid stress is not be here. And stress brings on a lot of different things. And so what I want to share with you tonight, like I'm talking about, I got 12 key principles that help you to avoid the storms that can come along with high blood pressure. So as we look at this right here, we're going to move down fast. Galatians 6:1, and it talks about brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. One of the things that I consider myself as a man of God is I live by the Spirit. I know I might adjust you and it might not always be gentle, but one of the things is I'm trying to restore you. I'm trying to restore you back to a way that your body can be the best version of you, which is our purpose of our office. And so what happens is we also got to watch out for ourselves because we're tempted. You know, I've been through a period where I've had high blood pressure. We all are going to have it off and on at certain points in our lives. The problem with high blood pressure, if it stays up and you can't regulate it, that's what caused a lot of the problems. So before we get into that, we got to understand what, and some statistics on it. Just some interesting information. This facts, it kind of got my attention. 103 million people. There's only about 450 million people in the United States. So we're talking about a third have high blood pressure. Okay? When you look at this right here, 38% rise in hypertension deaths between 2005 and 2015. That's a 38% rise in deaths. Not just having high blood pressure, people dying from it, uncontrollably. Now also too, 1 out of every 5 people don't even know they have it. That's why they call it the silent killer. The other thing we look at here is 54% of the people have it under control. 410,000 Americans died in 2014. That's equivalent to about 1,100 people dying a day. Now, if we had one jumbo jetliner crash, and it was probably 300 people on it, we'd be in an uproar. But we got 1,100 people dying a day from just high blood pressure related stuff. They're talking about strokes, heart attacks, kidneys shutting down, his body just full out, going out of control. What happens is that's costing this country $48.6 billion. So this is say, just long cut the chase, that's a moneymaker. That's a moneymaker. I mean, you look at that and you say, man, but what it happens is you got insurance companies that will pay for you to be on high blood pressure medicine, but won't pay for omega-3s, won't pay for vitamins for you to help doing those different things. But they'll continuously pay on that stuff. because pharmaceutical companies, and they're coming out with more and more different kinds. And we're going to get into some of the top ones in a little bit. So what is high blood pressure? We know it's a silent killer. We know what happens with high blood pressure. It's anything considered greater than 120/80. That's the textbook model. Now I'm here to say, and I'm not partial to anything, but a lot of this was done on Caucasian white males. It was not done in African Americans. So what's happened is you look at the makeup, there is an ethnicity differences that we have to take in accountability when we start talking about blood pressure. And those are the different things that we need to break down. So what is systolic? What's that top number? What is that? Anybody?
When the heart closes.
When the heart contracts, when the muscle contracts, right? So that's when it's the highest amount of pressure. When that heart contracts, it's going to give you that top number. Diastolic is when the heart relaxes. So there was this doctor back in 1905 that came up with this thing. We're going to squeeze somebody's arm or blood vessel until we can't hear the blood. The blood can't go through it. That's what the cuff does. And then what they do is they hurry up and write that number down. But we got these $40 cuffs that we can just put on right now and it tells you that. And then we're going to actually let the pressure release slowly until we can actually hear that blood or feel that blood come through again. And then we write down that number, and that's the bottom number. Now, there should always be a difference between those numbers. It should be about a 40-degree difference. So what happens is the closer those numbers get together, the more in trouble you are. The further those numbers get in trouble away from, the more in trouble you are. So 120/80 is a 40-degree difference. So when you got somebody, say somebody comes in and their blood pressure is 200/100, they're really under a lot of stress. So that heart is contracting really hard. And it's to the point where it can contract, and then next thing you know, they can end up with a heart attack, they can end up with a stroke, they can end up blowing a blood vessel. There's a lot of different things that can happen from that. And so what happens if that bottom number is real high, that means the heart is not relaxing like it should. And so it's still under a certain amount of pressure. And so this is why it's so important to understand this, because guess what? Pressure busts pipes. It busts pipes, and you don't want it to burst certain ones. Blood pressure, all it is an adaptive response. If I'm walking down 159th Street, I'm just walking, and all of a sudden a dog jumps out at me. My blood pressure is going to jump up. It's going to probably be like 300/200. Or a common thing that people experience all the time, when you have sex, your blood pressure get up real high. They can go to 400/100, and then it'll drop back down. The other things you look at too, as far as adaptive responses, if you actually are laughing, if you're doing any kind of physical activity. So what happens is an adaptive response. If I take you and I sit you in a room and your bladder's full, you got to use the bathroom, and it's about 60 degrees in there, and I come in and I take your blood pressure, your adaptive response is going to be what? It's going to be a little bit higher than what it is. Or if I just don't like doctors, and you take a full bladder in a cold room, and a doctor comes in with a white coat on, guess what? My blood pressure is going to be a little bit higher. It's called white coat syndrome. That's something that we have to take in accountability. So when they actually measure blood pressure, the true way to really get a collective measure of blood pressure is to measure over a certain amount of time. What I found with most doctors, they're measuring it over the course of about 3 weeks. So you got to catch it at different times and you document it down. But if you to go in and go for 6 months and then go another 6 months or another year and constantly get it, and they keep measuring that time because you have that white coat syndrome, they could label you hypertensive. And there are different stages of high blood pressure. The severe, the people like 200/100, those are people that you don't pass go, you need to go to the hospital or you might not be here. You know, I was just in a Sprint store the other day, and a lady, and we just ended up being the same age. And she came in, she had a walker. And our girl, and they came in, and she was like, yeah, she said, I said, well, what happened? I said, did you have a, she said, I had a stroke. I said, how? She said, my blood pressure. She said, I didn't even know it was high. It was so high that it blew her kidneys out. She's on dialysis, and she had a stroke. That's why they call it the silent killer, and it's adaptive distress. So what high blood pressure does is it causes that left ventricular heart to pump harder. What happens in that left ventricular heart? The heart is broken into 4 chambers, if you don't know. Number 1, you got ventricles at the bottom, and you got atrials at the top, atriums at the top. So that left ventricle is the strongest part of the heart. So when that squishes, that's where you're going to get a lot of that number, that high number from that top number. And the more it pushes, it's going to actually, the less it pushes, the less effective that relaxation is between those beats. 2 different types of blood pressure, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes. You got ischemic. Ischemic is when the heart is not getting enough blood to it. Usually that's due to arteriosclerosis or arthrosclerosis. What happens is How many people have ever known somebody when they go to exercise, it hurts? Like their feet or stuff like that. That's usually signs of arteriosclerosis, where the arteries are clogged. So when the heart tries to push the blood to those areas that it needs to demand, it actually hurts for them to have it. That's a bad problem. That's a bad problem to have. And then the most common kind is hypertensive. That's when the heart enlarges. Okay? That's when the ankles swell, the knees swell, the feet swell. That's the most common kind of high blood pressure that people suffer from. And so we're going to talk about that in a little bit of different things. So when I talk about that pressure versus pipes, we got to look at what the allopathic medicine does. They use different types of things to do it. So if you have ankles that swell, more than likely they're going to put you on a diuretic. What a diuretic is, and I'll get into that in a little bit, the second thing they might put you on is a beta blocker and then an ACE inhibitor. How many of y'all ever heard of those before? But you might know them as their names, like lisinopril, all these other different kinds of things. You know, all these other different types of medications. So when you look at these things right here, here's the diuretic. What it does is it helps to get rid of excess salt. That's one of the first things that people tell you got high blood pressure is to cut salt. It helps to get rid of the excess salt and that water that sits in the things. Because what it's going to do is it's going to affect the kidneys. And it affects the kidney functions. That's why right now, and I'm so prevalent about doing this, African Americans dominate any dialysis center right now. And one of the simple reasons why is uncontrollable blood pressure. One of the other reasons is high levels of blood sugar, which is called diabetes. If we don't get this under control, we're not even going to be able to function and live and do the stuff we need to do. But some of the side effects is that it decreases potassium. When it decreases potassium, what are you going to have? More cramps. So a lot of times people come into my office and they'll say, Doc, I keep getting these cramps in my low back. I keep getting these cramps in my leg. And is it something that's, I think it's a nerve. What it is you're probably taking a water pill and you're probably doing this other stuff. The other thing is too is people feel tired. Okay? Sluggish, don't want to do anything. Guess what that can lead to? That can lead to depression. That can lead to a lot of other different things. The other thing is you got right here is the beta blockers. I'm going to go through this real quick because I don't want to take too much of your time. But it reduces the heart rate. That's what's going to slow down the heart rate. How many of y'all want your heart rate to slow down all the time? That's going to slow down the blood flow to your body. Most importantly, it's going to slow down the blood flow to your brain. Now, one of the things, I have a very good friend of mine that's a chief or one of the head neurologists at Rush, and she was saying that the study is out there right now. Long-term use of this stuff is going to cause dementia-like symptoms, Alzheimer's-like symptoms, for people on blood pressure all the time. And so we don't want that. Also, tiredness and depression or depression. Impotence. You don't even want to tap into that area. That's still possible. That's one of the things right there, that's one of the greatest, one of the 6 signs of human needs. You know, asthma, symptoms. That's people that don't even have asthma, but they end up having symptoms like it when they get 65, when they start getting on this medication. Having problems breathing, different problems like that. And so we don't want to look at those. We don't look at those things. Now, by any means, I want to put this disclaimer out there. I'm not telling anybody to stop taking their medicine. You have to talk to your physician to do that. But one of the things it is, I'm just sharing with you the reality facts that's published anywhere. And guess where I got this information? Right off the American Heart Association website. Right off it says right here, when you start looking at the different types of blood pressure, if you go down, one of the other things is going to cause kidney problems. Right after it says it's designed to do these different things. So, we got ACE inhibitors. How many of y'all heard of ACE inhibitors by raising hands? ACE inhibitors, what they do is they actually is called angiotensin converting enzyme. It helps the blood vessels to relax and open up. So it's basically just dilates the blood vessels. So what happens in a lot of times with uncontrollable high blood pressure is you got blood vessels like this and you have a muscular lining in the inside. It's almost like the elasticity lining. And when that lining starts to get hardened through the arteriosclerosis, plaquing in there, the blood vessels don't relax and constrict like they used to. And what happens is the blood pressure will constantly be under pressure. And if it'll constantly be under pressure, that's why they start prescribing all these different medications to actually try to control that, to stimulate something that the body can't do. Now, the biggest issue that I found with the allopathic medicine system does is they don't take into consideration the environment of the person. One of the things that I do and what I'm starting to discover with functional medicine is to the point where you got to take an environment of the person. So let me paint a picture for you in your heads real quick. Now, we're all born in this tub of water, and we're all treading water. You got kids like Jazz, the youngest person in here. She's probably just floating back. She's in middle school, go to high school. You know, you got the stuff like that. But the older we get, we start putting backpacks on. And we start putting bricks in those backpacks. And guess what? The harder it is to tread water. So what happens is now you get a mortgage, you get a car note, you have a couple kids. Next thing you know, you got the job situation. You're thinking about this, you're thinking about that. Now some people are in so much stress and turmoil, they're having a hard time treading water. Your physiology is going to change, your blood pressure is going to go up. Now, if your blood pressure is constantly up for a certain amount of time, you go to any medical doctor, or 9 times out of 10, you're going to leave with one of these different types of drugs. And guess what? They're developing more every day. More every day. And they have a hard time doing it. So one of the things that I'm sharing with you today, as we talk about the different other ways and High Vitality does it, is it takes in consideration your environment. I just spoke at a gala on Friday, and one of the best, brilliant minds that I've ever met was Dr. Silstein. She's out of Detroit, and she's a cardiologist. And her opening line was, "You do not want to see me. You do not want to see me. If you see me, you're in trouble." And one of the things that she said is that we both agreed on, medicines don't heal people. So if you actually are on high blood pressure medicine right now, and your blood pressure is 120, and you're on high blood, you still have high blood pressure. And you got to deal with a lot of these effects, the side effects that goes along with that. And so when I talk about ACE inhibitors, one of the biggest things, they put that down last, is kidney failure and kidney problems. You know, you got rashes, loss of taste, cough. And guess what happens when people have loss of taste? I've seen this happen so many times in my own family. They load more salt on it. They load more spices on it that have high sodium content. And then it creates a whole nother problem. So, High Vitality does it, it takes into consideration the environment. Most importantly, it takes into consideration the environment, but it also takes into consideration the body's designed to heal itself. I'm going to tell you, we serve an amazing God. And every organ inside your body is so amazing, and it's designed to do certain things. But if we keep doing these slow, death things to kill that body over the course of years, it's going to kill us. And it's going to kill us a lot faster than we like to be here. So a lot of people come in, and one of the things I see too is they got decrease in energy. A lot of times they're on high blood pressure medication. You know, and that doesn't affect everybody. Number one thing you can do is walk. You might want to write it, walk. The human body was designed to move, was designed to walk. You have to walk to use the bathroom. You got to walk to go to the kitchen. But you need to, most importantly, get out and some fresh air and walk. And if you can run, run. But the main thing is you need to move. And if you can't walk right for a long period of time, but you can still ride a bike, get on a bike and ride a bike. But do something 30 minutes every day. That's going to challenge that heart rate. Now, I was hoping one of my greatest testimonials that I've had with blood pressure was going to be here tonight. But I had this young brother. He was walking. He was doing a lot of this stuff. But we had to tweak it a little bit. So he was walking with the treadmill on the same thing, or he was walking the same route. Oh, we got to throw some heels in there, brother. We got to get your heart rate up. So we got to start. He said, oh, my God. You know, I had the incline up. I was sweating. In 10 minutes, I was sweating like I did in a whole hour on the treadmill. Because guess what? Your body hits plateaus, so you got to constantly change it up. Now, we go to the second one. Second one is, we all know this, you got to reduce salt intake. I encourage you to start cooking with fresh herbs. Not these Uncle this and that spices you can buy out of here, and this and that, and all these different things, and a new chili lime spice that they got at Costco, and all these different things. You know, you got to just, some herbs, chop some basil up, some fresh oregano, but cut the salt down. You can get sometimes better taste out of those herbs than you could just salt. And what happens is, too, is we need to avoid salt-loaded foods. You have to look at containers. It might say reduced fat or zero sugar, but it might be loaded up in salt. Sodium content is so huge. You know, you look at bacon, you look at all these different things right here. Very, very important that we understand that we need to cook with those things instead. Third thing we got to do is we got to eat more potassium, garlic, magnesium-rich foods. These are things that help get rid of sodium. So when you do have sodium, you can't just stop sodium. Some people need to because it's in some everything. But sometimes you can actually develop some kind of deficiency with that. So you need sodium to a certain degree. You need a certain balance. You have in your muscles something what we call a sodium-potassium pump. Majority of people get too much sodium and not enough potassium. That's what causes cramps a lot of times. That's what can cause the blood pressure to go. So now we got to eat foods that have higher potassium-rich content. So one of the things you see right here is I didn't put any bananas up here. If you do the research, bananas do have potassium, and they're known for it, but they're not the highest content. The highest content is in green leafy vegetables. Okay? When you start getting into stuff like the tomatoes, the bell peppers, those things are loaded in potassium. And we got to start eating those like apples. Also, we got nuts and seeds. You got fruits. You have bananas in there, and you got oranges. Now, this is the thing. Everybody says, you know, I'm on this smoothie thing, Dr. Artis. I like smoothies. All you're doing is making a milkshake. Truthfully, seriously, because all you're doing is putting fruit in and stuff. If it doesn't have more vegetables in it than fruit, you're actually making a very big mistake. You're setting yourself up for diabetes, because that's going to spike your blood sugar. So we have to do probably, I would say, 2 to 3 different vegetables to probably 1 fruit. And the fruit is really for taste and different things like that. But fruit at the end of the day is still sugar. And sugar is not good for high blood pressure. It's not good for a lot of different processes in the body. Everybody follow me with this? Yeah. Okay, so the next thing we got tuna and salmon. That's where you're going to get your omega-3s. That's where you get your fish oil, all these different things. As we go right here, cut caffeine. That's a big problem for some people. I saw that firsthand this morning. I came to the office in the best mood in the world. Somebody didn't have their coffee this morning, right? And next thing you know, we taking their blood pressure and all this different thing. So that can cause a stress when you don't get it, because you start having withdrawals. So what happens is, if you're feeling tired and you go get coffee or these energy drinks to actually ignore it, you can't. You gotta sleep. You're actually causing your body more stress than you are harm. And so we gotta cut coffee, sodas. Energy drinks are the worst. They're putting so much stuff on our bodies, we're living in adrenal fatigue. And that's one of the things that we'll talk about there as we get into the sympathetic nervous system. Okay? Learn to manage stress. That's why I talk about us living in fight or flight. When I talk about fight or flight, this nervous system right here is divided up into 2 parts. You got a parasympathetic nervous system and a sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is in fight or flight. That's when a dog or something is chasing you when you're ready, right? Just like I walked in this morning. Like, who wants some? Let's go, ready? I was at, I was different things, man. I was jacked. So I was excited about this workshop. But the other part of the nervous system that people don't talk about that much is called the parasympathetic part of the nervous system. What that is rest, repair, and digest. Repair, rest. That's very important, because we live in an overstressed society where nobody's resting. Everybody's on the go. Boom, boom, gotta do this, gotta do this. So we stay in fight or flight mode. Guess what? We stay in fight or flight mode, our blood pressure is going to be higher. The next thing you look at right here is meditation, laugh, work less. And the biggest thing, I just told a whole bunch of really fancy people that's at the gala, is say no more. Say no more often. I've seen, and I got a lot of people in here that retired. The biggest issue that I see with you guys is that you take on other people's responsibility after you retire. You work hard and you got this vision of what retirement looks like. Now you come in here with grandkids, and then T has to tell them to sit down and all these different things unless they're well. But then you got all these different issues. So you got to learn how to say no more often. No, I can't do that. You got to protect your space. You got to learn some new habits. Learn a new language. Do different things. I encourage you to, because this stuff right here, and notice, I haven't said but a couple of things that tell you to do physically. This stuff right here is all mental, which majority of stress comes from, which a lot of different things can cause the blood pressure. The other thing is you got to drink more water. The best blood thinner in the world is water. Not warfarin, not Coumadin. The best blood thinner in the world is water. You're like 70% water, right? And if you don't get enough of it, your body's going to break down. And so when you look at these different things right here, is that we need to strive. We need to strive and eventually do so we can be healthier. But we got to drink half our body weight in ounces of water. So if you think it's too much water, you probably need to lose weight, because you can't get away from that. And the reason why, you stand up for me, Jess, for a second? Can I use you for a demonstration? So, me and this young lady right here are 2 different sizes, right? So one of the things that I look at with her, she's shorter. How much you weigh? 120, maybe? Probably say 120. I weigh 175 pounds. We would require two different amounts of water. Or you take somebody that's about 6'3" and about 250 pounds, they would require two different amounts of water. Thank you. Very good. So now what happens is, it will be crazy to say you need to drink 8 ounces of water, and you got a big 253, 6'3" guy to say you need to drink 8 ounces of water. Everybody's body is different. So that's why half your body weight in ounces is the best solution, and it's going to help hydrate your blood. One of the other reasons that I didn't put up there is it helps with your pH level. I'll be a second. And with pH level is very important, because now that creates an environment that your body can get the nutrients to where it needs to go. If the blood is thin and the molecules are warped and different things like that, you're going to have a lot of issues. Yes, ma'am.
My question was, my husband has congestive heart failure, so his heart right now is only pumping at 30%.
Okay.
So the doctor told him he don't want him drinking a lot of fluid.
In that case, you can't.
So what can he do then?
So he
has
really
bad high blood pressure.
Right. So when the heart rate, everybody had a question. The husband's heart is only functioning at 30%. You cannot drink because the body can't get rid of it. It's going to pile up behind the kidneys. It's going to pile up the heart. Congestive heart failure is when that heart is when that heart is actually, that left ventricular is getting so strong, the heart is starting to swell. So now it starts to backflow, and then that's a slow process of doing that. I would almost go, and that would be a separate consultation, because there's different things that you could do for that. But I mean, I would go just to putting exactly what he needs in there, and that's one of the biggest things that comes from juicing and different things like that. It's no excess stuff. I mean, it's just really getting what he needs in there and getting out. Too much water would make him sick.
Like 2 cups of water a day.
Right. So it's got to get that under control before he can start doing a lot of this stuff. Now, the next thing, yes, ma'am.
You said that hyperventricular starts to thicken and causes congestive heart failure. Well, on the other side, you're saying exercise. Won't the exercise overwork the heart?
The exercise is going to work the heart, but it's a positive stress. So what happens is the heart exercise is actually pushing the blood to where it needs to go, because the body's demanding it. It needs certain nutrients to get there to heal, to repair itself, right? So when you actually are not doing anything, the heart is just pushing, and it's pushing against stuff. So exercise is actually going to help you, because it's going to help you get the blood flow to where it needs to be. It's not going to just push it all on the heart, and the heart just trying to push stuff to where it doesn't need to go. And so the heart starts to back up and flow. It starts to back up with flow, and it causes a lot of other problems. So you can have actual different kinds of valves that can actually go into defect. Those are a lot of that's a whole nother workshop of different problems that you can cause by not exercising. You know, and then when you look at those different things right here, so what I'm saying is, the stuff that I'm saying, a lot of this stuff right here, is you can do while you're going through a lot of those different things, and people have congestive heart failure, heart issues. But a lot of this stuff is designed for you not to even get to that point. Okay? So when you get to that point, that will be more of a one-on-one thing, because it's everybody's different. And you got to take in consideration a lot of different factors to go with that person. So one of the things we got right here is try meditation and deep breathing. One of the things about this is most people don't know how to breathe. You know, when they say now you really want an accurate blood pressure, you got to do diaphragmatic breathing. And you need to sit there for 10 minutes before they actually take your blood pressure and breathe. So that's when you're actually raising that diaphragm up, raising it down. Raising it up, raising it down. You're keeping that stomach going in and out, breathing from the chest. You kind of rotate between those two. We just talked about that today. A guy, Mr. Light, was saying that how he could raise his pulse rate just by simply breathing. Now that's somebody that's really in tune with their body. And a lot of people don't have that ability to focus. But if we can all get in tune with our bodies like that, you can actually help to do stuff that relax the brain. You can actually slow that heart rate down, lower the blood pressure, and you can activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest, digest, and repair. Okay? Now, if we go on to this right here, we got to get massages on a regular basis. Why? I'm not just saying that because of this lovely massage therapist over here, but one of the things it does is it does increase circulation. When you work a muscle, when you're not working it like a physical muscle, when you're actually just working a muscle, it's going to stimulate blood supply to go to that area. And then if some blood supply goes to that area, it's going to heal faster. The next thing is it relaxes the muscles. A lot of times our blood pressure can be up when we're stressed, we're tight. We got three main things that cause stress in there right here. We got thoughts, which is emotional stress and different things. Finances, all these different things. Relationship issues, work, whatever. Then you got traumas, different things where people fall and they get hurt, they can't move. But then you got toxins as well. So what happens is when it's muscles and it's a physical thing, massage can help with a lot of that stuff. What I'm saying is basically a lot of these different things is you need more you time. You got to take more me time. And I do that from personal experience. You know, I had to step back, and now it's like, and it's not being selfish. Don't ever feel like you're being selfish because you take some time for yourself. But a massage is one of the best things you can do. The best thing you can do. Next thing you know is we need to keep our hormones in check. We need to get more sleep. We need to get more sleep. I'm not saying sit up on the phone for 2 hours playing Candy Crush, looking at Facebook, Instagram. Take the phone out, take the TV out. You need to sleep more. Research is even saying that an hour more sleep instead of getting up to the gym is more beneficial than going to the gym and put more stress on, if you need it. So we need to aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. So the big difference I saw, it was in the 1970s, which is not that long ago. I was born in the 70s. The average person got between 8 to 9 hours of sleep. In the 2000s, that we're averaging 5 to 6. That's not enough for the body to repair itself. It's not enough for you to heal. And so one of the things it is it reduces stress, and most importantly, it keeps the hormones in check. The main hormone that I'm looking for with that is cortisol. Cortisol is a major stress hormone that's going to cause wreck on your body if it stays there for high levels of time. So one of the things, why do you think when people get sick, they have them lay down and sleep and rest? Because their body's repairing itself. So what happens is if our bodies are constantly breaking down and it's repairing, we're going to be good. Breaking down, repairing, breaking down, repairing. But if our bodies are breaking down and it's not repairing, pretty soon it's going to hit zero function and you're going to die. That's the reality of it. So we need to break down, repair. So we need to start that process now. We're too overstimulated with a lot of different things that we get less sleep. We got TVs. We did better with one TV. Then when that broke, you put another TV on top of that, right? So what happens is now you can go get TVs for $200, $100 and put it in the bedroom. You know, so we need to get back to that, and that's one of the things you got to look at. The last thing we got right here is you got to take supplements. Number one, I got super garlic, basil statin. You also got CoQ10, hibiscus tea. Everybody, you got access to hibiscus tea right now. Very cheap. That bag thing of tea, hibiscus tea, was like $2.99 at Target. I think I got it from. And I got the other one from Trader Joe's. But you also got cardiogenic intensive care. These are different supplements that have high levels of magnesium, potassium, and different things that actually help your heart. And just in case you have a hard time changing your diet. You know, like I said, I get tempered too. What that scripture say? You got to take care of yourself. What happens if you get on a plane? Whenever the plane and the oxygen mask drops down, flight attendant says, put your mask on first before you can help somebody else, right? So you have to help yourself first before you go and try to help other people. And if you got blood pressures, you got to address that. You got to address that because that can sit you down. So what I did is I put together a functional medical package for high blood pressure, and it includes all these things in this 102. It's supplements that you take to help wean you off of some of those different medications you can look at. Because this is the thing, people are not paying attention to stuff. They're going and they're getting this stuff from Walgreens and all this place, and that could be sawdust for all you know. You could. Or it could be a lot of different things. You can take a picture.
She turned it off.
Okay, I'll go back to it. Active folate is a different kinds of folate stuff. It's a blend of different herbs, like it's magnesium in there, and I think it's got zinc and some other stuff. Folate acid to actually help to relax the blood vessels. Okay, these are natural things. They're not over the counter that you can get, and those are different things. That's just a type of that brand, but it's a blend of stuff. So as we wrap this stuff up right here, is high blood pressure is dangerous disease if not controlled. It can kill you. It can send you in dialysis. It can have to lead you to a stroke, lead you to a heart attack. High blood pressure is a silent disease if it's not controlled. High blood pressure is a lifelong disease. So what I'm saying is all this stuff that I'm talking about up here today, you can start doing it, but if you stop, your blood pressure is going to go back up. This is stuff you do for the rest of your life. It's like chiropractic. And I'm not saying that because I'm a chiropractor. I understand what happens to the spine if you don't take care of it. So when you look at these different things right here, when you do these things, I'm not just saying pick one of these things. You got to do all of them. A lot of people start paying too. See, that's what I'm saying. That's what we all, you know, you got, You go to church, you got certain, they'll pick stuff that really applies to them, that they like, and the stuff that really is on their heart, they'll be like, I don't want to do that. We was just talking that to a lady this morning. You know, Dr. Artis, I don't want to hear that. I said, oh, but this is what you need to hear. That's what you need to focus on the most. So the stuff that you don't like up here the most, that's what you need to do the first. That's what you need to do first. And so we need to pay attention to those different things.
I ain't claiming that.
Now, exactly. And then you got, that's another thing too. You know, I'm a spiritual person, but one of the things I do see is that people are in denial. You know, I can pray my symptoms away. I can pray this thing away. And I do believe prayer is powerful. But I know faith without works is dead. And that's the quickest way to get you to death when you're not playing with your health. And it's when people are in denial, it's a recipe for disaster. That's why when I go and I work with a lot of churches, now I've been in churches that people I feel I had a stroke, heart attack, right there. You know, oh yeah, all the time. And guess what happens? It's like those are the foundation members of the churches. A lot of these churches decrease because these older people are dying off. So we gotta take care of our health so we can be around here, get some old school beatings and stuff like that, and straighten these people out because it's not happening. They're going to McDonald's. They're not listening because they think they're invincible because they can't feel it. When I'm seeing 30-year-olds on high blood pressure medicine, young girl in here, not even 30 years old, 3 kids on high blood pressure medicine. 2 different ones. No, and that's another thing. I said that with a comedian the other day, and she was like, you know, I grew up in the 70s. My mother came, and I have a brother that's 20 years younger than me. So when I grew up, we had haircuts. You dropped off at the thing. You turned corners. Yes, ma'am. I felt like I was in the military. Yes, ma'am. My grandmother came. Now you got these young kids come around. They be like, yeah, huh? And you got a mother walking around. She's stressed with 1 kid, 2 kids. So it's a difference. It's a difference. It's a difference in the parenting. So we got to look at these different things, and that could be a big contributor to high blood pressure. So I end on this note. There was a story. Everybody know of Noah. I just went to Cincinnati down there where it's on the Ark Encounter down in Kentucky. So Noah was sitting on the house one day, and then they said, man, he's watching the things. He's going back to the storm. The storm coming in. So it started flooding. Then next thing you know, he went outside. He had to go sit on the porch because it was up higher. The guy came through with the canoe and said, hey, you need to get in. Noah's like, no, I'm good. I'm not evacuating. I'm staying here, right? Then next thing you know, the flooding came, the storm, and it rained for 3-4 days, and it was all the way. Now he was on the roof of the house. They came back with another canoe and a boat. And they said, look, you got to get in here or you're going to die. Then they sent a helicopter one last time. Long story short, Noah died. He drowned. Right? He got the guy. He said, God, why you didn't help me? Why you didn't save me? And then what happened is the guy said, I did. I sent 2 canoes. I sent a helicopter. And you didn't get on either one of them.
Right.
This is your canoe to help you to deal with that storm. So one of the things you got to do is you got to get your foundation ready. Because the storms are coming. The only way that we can avoid it is not be here. Heart disease, cancer, high blood pressure, stroke, it's going to affect some of everybody in this room in some form or fashion. If you don't have your foundation right, you don't have your structure right, you will get swept up. Because the buildings with the weaker foundations will suffer. So I thank you all for listening tonight, and then I'll open up for questions. Yes, ma'am.
Did I understand you say that if you have high blood pressure, you never get rid of it?
Well, it is a disease. You can manage it.
Manage it, right.
You can manage it.
If we stay on
Let me say this, and I'll go back to what I was saying. High blood pressure is you can stop that. High blood pressure is a adaptive response to stress. Whether it's good stress, like sex, or bad stress, like somebody trying to rob you, right? It's an adaptive response to it. Now, what happens is,